Hello and welcome to the Flourishing Introvert Talks with me, Jo Rawbone. This is the podcast that celebrates the natural gifts of introverts so that we can flourish in all situations. Episode 221, The Gift of Showing Kindness to Others. I'm aware that this episode may ruffle a few feathers. In fact, some may even choose not to listen to the episode just because of the title. Because there are still those who mistake misanthropy for introversion. We've all seen those so-called jokey memes floating around, espousing that, as introverts, we're supposed to hate people. The memes that get the biggest laughs and the most number of likes are the ones about us being proud of a resting bitch face or deliberately closing the lift door when someone is rushing towards it. And today's gem, saying that dogs are our favourite creatures because someone taught their dog how to throw bricks at people who rang his doorbell. Sorry, what now? Okay, so that attitude might be true for some people, but not the natural introverts of this world who understand that introversion is just about where we get our energy from and our different communication processes. That think, say, think that I refer to so much of the time. Are any of those types of mean behaviour really necessary? Do they really make you feel good? Can you see how they might impact the world negatively? Like, there's not enough negativity in society right now, huh? In my last episode, I focused on the importance of being kind to ourselves, as self-compassion provides the foundation for our ability to extend kindness to others. Today, I'm diving into how we can take that self-kindness and spread it outwards, creating a ripple effect of warmth and positivity. You see, the truth is that kindness is contagious, but so is meanness. We've known in leadership and management circles for a very long time that behaviour breeds behaviour. For many years, I've introduced this using the Batari's box model. This simple yet powerful model shows how my and your attitude and behaviours are linked in a somewhat circular fashion. My attitude affects my behaviour, which in turn affects your attitude, which then affects your behaviour, which then goes on to affect my attitude, and so the cycle continues. Our attitude is pretty much always evident in our behaviour, whether this is the tone of voice we use, the words we're saying, and/or our facial expressions. And as mentioned in previous episodes, if there is any confusion, we look to the non-verbals for clarity. So, when I choose to have the attitude that everyone is just doing their best in what we accept is a troublesome time, then my behaviour towards them is likely to be kinder. Whereas, if I expect everyone to be mean and out for themselves, that's what I'm likely to get. This might be why people fall into the trap of saying, "You made me feel angry or upset," when in actuality, we have that moment where we choose how we feel and how we respond. That pause that Viktor Frankl refers to in his quote, "Between stimulus and response there is space, and in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." So the good news is that even if someone is behaving aggressively towards me, I can choose kindness as my response. Let's face it, how will meeting hostility with hostility move things forward? Now, this isn't the same as being a doormat or a pushover. I also know that this behaviour is aligned with the laws of reciprocity, a social phenomenon where we feel somehow obliged to give something to someone who has given to us. Robert Axelrod, former professor of political science and public policy at the University of Michigan talked about the evolution of cooperation and that it's more helpful to start nice, be provocable, so bite back if we're bitten, and then be forgiving. I share this model during the influencing skills course I deliver, and I adopt this attitude whenever it's appropriate. Because if I want to change how someone else is behaving, I first need to reflect on my own attitude and behaviour. As Batari's box demonstrates, change doesn't happen when we get caught in a self-sustaining loop. If I want to encourage more kindness in the world, and I do, it has to start with me and how I show kindness to others. Even those, or maybe especially those, who seem stuck in a meanness loop. This is what I refer to as the ripple effect, and it occurs when I smile at strangers, which I often do. You know how strongly I feel about the ripple effect. It's why I chose to call my new live show Dropping Pebbles in the Pond. Ripples have the ability to spread out far beyond the point of impact, and small acts of kindness have a similar effect. We do need to be aware, though, that just like ripples, we'll never know how far those small acts of kindness travel and the impact they may have. Take last week. I was working with a group who had every reason to feel bruised, and some of them had a kind of, "Okay, what have you got for me?" look on their faces. Now, I don't know what they've been through or what they're still going through. I can only imagine. So I chose to show up with kindness rather than let it put me off my stride. And in doing that, not only did the group start to respond differently, but I felt good too. So here's another wonderful thing about the ripple effect of kindness. Research in psychology and sociology shows that acts of kindness not only benefit the recipient, me in this case, but also inspire others to pay it forward. So by being kind to others, we're not just impacting their lives, we're creating a chain reaction of kindness that reaches further than the eyes can see and the heart can feel. This attitude engages our emotional intelligence as it requires us to be mindful of what people are going through rather than judging them for their attitude and behaviours. If we are able to understand and connect with other people at a deeper level, we have more opportunities to help them move from a stuck and negative position. And if they change how they're feeling, they can impact others positively too, that chain reaction. We all, yes, even we introverts, need someone to talk to, someone who will really hear us and be present with us. Introverts like you and me are rarely looking for solutions, but we are looking to be heard non-judgmentally. People deserve to be treated with compassion and dignity, don't you think? So what stops us from being kind? What holds us back? Here are a few initial thoughts, but you won't like all of them. Firstly, there's worrying that we're overstepping a boundary. Then there's feeling that the other person doesn't deserve our kindness. Then thinking no one has shown me kindness, so why would I bother? Or maybe it's because we're fearful of dropping the hard, self-reliant, resistant exterior. And maybe, more than that, I think it's fearful of opening ourselves up to real connection. But, and I say this on many occasions, we all need authentic, heartfelt connections. So as introverts, we need the right connections, not just any old connection, because we're human too. So I invite you to experiment over the coming weeks and let me know how it goes. For instance, how do you feel and what impact does your kindness have? I recommend that you start small because that way you're more likely to continue. Here are some ways that you might start. Number 1, hold a door open, even if it is a lift door or an elevator door for my American friends. Number 2, smile at a stranger. You'll be surprised how many smiles you get back. Number 3, pay it forward in a coffee shop. Number 4, offer someone a seat on your commuter train. Number 5, give someone at work or at home some motivational feedback. Number 6, really focus on someone when you're in conversation with them. It may not be that interesting to you, but it's very life-affirming. And number 7, compliment someone on something they're wearing. I love telling people, whatever their pronouns, just how fabulous they look. I even stop people in the street to do this. So you see, if I have a kind thought, I choose to share that thought. It seems a little mean to keep it to myself somehow. What it does mean is that I'm continually checking in with myself to assess my intentions. And I guess I probably need to say this too. Focusing on kindness does not preclude me feeling all the other feels. For instance, it's okay for me to be angry, but I make sure it's with the right person and in the right way. Taking my anger out on an innocent bystander is definitely not okay. Sadness is okay, but I don't need to use it to smother everything in sight like a wet blanket. It's okay for me to feel scared, and I often do, and sometimes at the same time as feeling kind. They kind of flick-flack like an old clapper toy. So I'm not blocking all of my other emotions out to only focus on kindness. But when I use that space, if I can choose kindness, I will. And remember that it starts with me anyway. As you start to experiment, don't worry if you get nothing back or nothing positive anyway. Some things take time, and your kindness has cost you nothing. And if you allow it to, it will have you feeling better about life. Remember the benefits of kindness that Dr. David Hamilton talks about. Last week I shared the 3 most relevant to self-kindness. So let's finish that list off with the last 2 benefits that we reap when we're kind to others. So number 4 on his list of 5 is that kindness improves relationships. And if you're not a misanthrope or socially anxious, this will matter to you. People who show kindness are more likeable, which reduces the distance between us. I know I want to feel that more, and frankly, the world needs more emotional closeness. And here's the thing. We're wired for kindness, so kindness actually takes less effort. That's a great benefit in my book. Lastly, and number 5 on Hamilton's list of benefits, is something I've talked about a lot already today. Kindness is contagious. Just as a pebble creates waves when it's dropped in a pond, so acts of kindness ripple out, touching others' lives and inspiring kindness wherever the wave goes. That thought has me feeling very happy. And if you want to witness some of the pebbles I drop in my pond, do join me for my live show on YouTube every other Thursday. I'll make sure that the link is in the notes that go with this episode. So before I conclude, let me ask you what you'll do to start the ripples of kindness in your own life. Do drop me an email to let me know to quietly@flourishingintroverts.com. Now, my final conclusion. I want to leave you with this thought. Kindness is contagious. By spreading kindness to others, we not only make the world a better place, but also enrich our own lives in the process. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, then please subscribe, rate us and leave a comment, because we know that helps other people find the podcast. And if other people find us, other introverts can flourish.
You are listening to an Intentional Media Production podcast.